Chapter 1. Tattoos, teammates, and teasing. That bloody music. It wouldn't stop blasting its dulcet tones from the other side of the room. Typically, he wouldn't have cared or done anything about it, but he had a tough deadline and couldn't concentrate at home. He'd decided a local café would be a more productive place to work out of. So, he had headed to the Richmond High Street to find somewhere cosy to get a cappuccino and a snack. Freddy was also exhausted from training that morning on the river. It was Tuesday, which meant they had a double training day written into the schedule. His morning, which had started at 5 a.m, was already in full swing. He was hours ahead of anyone else, and his muscles were absolutely killing. As he sat in the cafe, he noticed a guy sitting opposite him on the adjacent table. Usually, he was good at ignoring people around him, especially when he had a tight work deadline, but this was different. His legs were killing, which meant he kept getting distracted by pain. He occasionally put his hand under the table to try to massage his quads, which were still aching massively. It was a force of habit, meaning he couldn't stop himself from doing it every few minutes. His pen, which he held in his right hand, was made busy as he placed the end into his mouth while he pondered upon some questions on the assignment that he'd been given by his manager. As he continued to nibble on the end of his pen lightly, his left hand reached below. It brushed the tight shorts he was wearing, the athleisure ones which fitted amazingly well. They were probably more of a booty short than a regular short, but he liked how they looked and they showed off his body rather well. Not that it mattered too much, but he liked to show off the goods, just in case it made someone's day a little brighter. It was rock hard. His left thigh. He'd have to work on that, he thought to himself, as he massaged it gently while pondering some technical details for the project he was working on. He accidentally met eyes with the guy adjacent to him. Disaster. Absolutely the most awkward time to catch his hazel eyes. He accidentally smiled at the guy, perhaps to show that he was harmless and wasn't touching himself under the table. To make it obvious he wasn't touching himself, he shuffled back slightly into the comfortable cushions on the bench he was sat at. Luckily, it showed his shorts and that he was massaging his thigh and not wanking under the table. His eyes now changed their gaze, awkwardly moving his head down slightly as he looked down to the notepad in front of him. He then stared at his laptop impulsively and brought both hands back to the table, clearly showing that he was working and definitely not jerking off under the table. He had to admit, the guy was quite cute. He was probably in his late 20s or maybe early 30s, had a white t-shirt on, blue jeans and some accessories. He looked like he was probably a writer or musician, judging by his demeanour. He'd briefly brushed past him upon entering the coffee shop, located just off of Richmond Green on Tulsade Lane, and briefly smelt his cologne, Chanel Bleu. It smelt gorgeous to him at the time, but as with any coffee shop encounter, he had only pondered briefly upon the person being incredibly attractive. He was there to work, not to hook up with cute blonde boys who had incredibly hot stubble and a smattering of tattoos across their upper body. His hand reached instinctively to his left thigh, again, trying to iron out the quads so as to relieve some of the pain. Later on that day, around 7 p.m, he had another gym session booked, which would consist of some German volume training, and then some light core work, and perhaps some pieces on the indoor rowing machine. These were the worst sessions, especially as he was already exhausted from his morning outing in the Single Scull, the smallest and most technically demanding boat a person can train in. He kept staring at his laptop and tried to remember that he probably should keep his hands on the table just in case the cute blonde guy was staring at him again. His mind did wander, though. The material on the shorts felt great against his skin, so he got slightly hard every time he brushed them and felt himself underneath. His package wasn't that pronounced, but was tucked away nicely under the tight 5-inch inseam shorts. He got a little harder and could feel his balls and head of his cock ever so slightly as he massaged himself again. He'd had to stop, though, before he got too fully hard. That would not be good in the current circumstance. He instantly lifted his left hand to his coffee cup and took some sips of the lukewarm, overly milky cappuccino. What was it about younger people and making cappuccinos properly? He never understood why people made it the American way, that is, far too milky, and then adding insult to injury by dousing it in far too much hot chocolate powder until it basically resembled a milky latte with a weird chocolatey mess on top, and a sweetness which he didn't want. He wanted to taste the coffee, not drink half a cup of coffee-scented cow juice. Not pleasant.